Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the True Believers podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And if you can guess by my shield right here, we are here to talk Captain America Brave New World. It is out in theaters. We have a huge show with a collection of Avengers joining us. So we are going to get things started here. And by doing that, first and foremost, just warning right out of the gate, we are going to be spoiling this movie. So be prepared because we are diving deep into this film, and we're going to be talking about all the aspects of it. But like I said, I have got a group of Avengers here, and I'm just going to start introducing people across the board. And first and foremost, of course, is my partner and co-founder in the Fandom Podcast Network. We call him Aunt Kevin. It's Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
What's going on? Good to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got a big group here. I like this.
Big crew. I mean, I feel like somebody's on my left already. So, next up, we cannot do an MCU movie without our own version of Deadpool. And of course, that means Mr. Cat Cedar is in the house.
Oh, hey guys. Great to be here, man. MCU all the way, buddy.
Our next person, she was trained in a red room, but I think it was the red room of Movie Foo. She's the queen of Movie Foo, Miss Lacey Pants.
Hello.
Lacey Adderhole.
Red room of Movie Foo.
Take it how you can.
We're going to cross the streams even because the Star Wars contingent here at the Fandom Podcast Network wanted in. He's kind of making maybe a guest cameo or something like that, like one of the Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe Star-Lord guesting on an Avengers episode. Derek Marsh is here from What a Piece of Junk.
I am Groot.
There we go,
buddy.
Hey, everyone.
We always need a soothsayer here in the Avengers. Somebody who can maybe make things even a little strange. You know, he might be the Doctor Strange, or he might be full of fearful symmetry. You owe me $1. The one and only John Mosby.
Yeah. Raised by possums.
What's up, John? Welcome.
And lastly,
superpowers are.
Yeah. And lastly, just hopping over the Rainbow Bridge in time for this podcast, he is Cold Thor himself, Mr. Lee Billington.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Glad to have you join us here. Guys, we have an absolutely huge show here because we are talking about Captain America: Brave New World, and of course, this is the True Believers podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network. But there's just a ton to get to, so let's get into it. Let's kick off Phase 1, which is a very special phase for this particular version of True Believer. Now, Kevin, normally we would start off by talking about the movie, but no, we're not doing that this time because there has been a fad and a craze that has taken over movie premieres, and that is popcorn buckets and swag. And Captain America: Brave New World has had a ton of popcorn buckets and swag. Starting off, Kevin, you went out, you got everything, didn't you?
Yeah. So I didn't get everything. Lacey got something I didn't, but you know, I unintentionally by Cinemark theaters, you suck, by the way, because they start releasing the buckets whenever they get them. If it's a couple of weeks earlier, they'll start releasing it. So if you're going to try to go to Cinemark theater on opening night for, you know, this movie, you might not get the bucket you want. Because I went to go see a Mark Wahlberg film directed by Mel Gibson a few weeks earlier, and they just so happened to have, like, you know, popcorn and stuff, and they had the Captain America head, you know, helmet here, and then they had the cup, right? But also,
Can we just call that Captain America?
Yes, Captain America. Yes. Then also they had here. Bring this here. AMC got the Red Hulk here, which is kind of cool.
It's a good look for you, Kev.
And he's got the little. You open up his back, and yeah, there you go. And also, AMC had this one here, which I thought was pretty cool. The Captain America shield with the wings that come in and out, which is kind of neat. I like that. And it goes straight in from the top. And then also, they had these here, the other version of the Captain America helmet. And you can't really tell with the bright lights, but it actually lights up. On the inside, you can see the little lights inside there as well. And then it opens up on the top like that. And then also with this one, you can get this. Shush. You can get this cup right here, which I thought was kind of cool, kind of like these rubberized outsides of the cups and stuff. So, but Lacey, you got something that we didn't get. Showcase what you got there.
So Regal, they did have the one you showed with the wings that came out, and they also had the Red Hulk. But I think their Red Hulk is slightly different. I'd have to see the picture again. But you know how during Deadpool I was so excited that they had the lid for the tin, the tall tin, and had the lid, and this is delightful. It's a Captain America shield as the lid, which I love. It's fantastic. It's got the stars, it's got the wings, it's got the shield, it's got everything. Nice. I love it. This came with, it was a combo. You can only get it as the combo. And it came with 2 cups. And each cup got a different little cup topper.
Nice.
One is Falcon, and one is
that's cool.
The Red Hulk.
Yeah, very cool. Now, Kyle, there was one other thing we didn't mention, and I wanted you to showcase it. If you could showcase the shield, the large shield that you get at was it AMC?
Yes, this particular shield right here, which is very well made. It's made out of the metal that they usually make for the popcorn tins, like Lacey had. The only issue that they really had, and I think most AMC theaters have said this, is they've got a lot of them and they had some dents and damage in them because of how they're shipping. But if you open it up, and I'm not going to put it all the way because it'll lock into place, but you can pull it up and twist it, and it becomes a popcorn bucket. But I know several of us got this. This is it's a little pricey. I'm not gonna lie. It's about $50 for this popcorn tin, but this is probably the most sturdy one I've seen to date. As far
mine's hanging right over there. Kat, you got yours as well. Nice, yeah.
That's not cheap. Like 6 bags of popcorn to fill.
Lee's got something to say there. What you got, Lee?
I got something coming that you guys won't have. I went to the special AMC fan premiere event. Paid a little bit extra. You had a couple extra minutes of stuff.
Was this the IMAX event?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And it came with collectible challenge coin key rings. Now, I went to an AMC that was not very well run. They did not give us our 3D glasses. So we found out the movie was in 3D when the 3D trailers came up. So most of us missed at least Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts. But they also didn't hand out the key rings. And when we went back, there weren't any. So I kind of reached out to AMC, and AMC Corporate is sending some to us. But that opening night special premiere swag is something I've been missing. I used to do that for the before times. I've got my Captain America Winter Soldier pins. I got the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. But it was always like that one show that you could get the cool stuff at. So
it's funny you mentioned the 3D. I just wanted to mention real quick, and as we're showing some of the pictures of the popcorn buckets here, I went to go see it in 3D, and the Fantastic Four and the Thunderbolts trailers were in 3D, but they weren't calibrated correctly for the 3D glasses until Captain America came on. Then the 3D was fine.
Interesting. I've never seen where they've had that issue before, but
yeah, I have. I've seen it before.
Yeah.
Is that the difference between like real D and 3D or something like that, or is it just?
They just don't calibrate it right. It's something with the digital projector. They just don't set it correctly, or maybe they just didn't test it right. I don't know, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Like they may have tested the movie, but they didn't test the trailer, so you have to adjust that stuff. So anyway.
Well, if you went opening day, a lot of times they don't have time to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Used to be like you'd do it the night before.
Yep.
And then everyone heard about that, and they're like, "Oh, we should just have the midnight premiere," which means nobody gets to see it before it runs. And it's a thing when it's filmed. It's called masking, and there's like a little trigger that changes the lens, does a bunch of other stuff, and you run it through. You make sure the masking is all good, and then you can put it out to the public. Yeah. If they didn't have that time, that's because we just need to get butts in seats instead of actually do our job right.
Yeah. Plus, I was giving kids 3D glasses instead of adult because the person in the front had no idea what was going on. Anyway, go on. Go ahead next, Kyle. You're up.
Yeah. Well, guys, now that we all have our swag, so we can have our snacks during the podcast, it's time to actually talk about the movie. So let's shift in. Okay, it is time to get everybody to hear the Avenging Panel's reactions to Captain America, Brave New World. I'm just going to say real quick, I had a lot of fun with this. I think this was a great movie for kind of closing out some chapters in Marvel and maybe setting up what the next chapter is in Marvel. I know it's not 100% perfect. I think there were some great acting performances in this. I know the story had a lot of ups and downs because of edits and a lot of reshoots, but I think for the most part, I had fun with this movie. Is it the best MCU movie? No, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. But I'm going to go around to the panel here and see what everybody's thoughts were on it as well. Kevin, I'm going to kick things off with you. What did you think of Captain America: Brave New World?
I enjoyed it. I always keep track of the movies I watch on Letterbox, as we do between me, you, and Lacey. And we also rate them as well. I gave this a 3 out of 5. Obviously not great, but better than average. I had a good time with it. I was discussing the movie with a friend of mine at work who's a big MCU fan, and he kind of said something that I thought kind of resonated with me that I'll dive into later, that it left me wanting more. Like I was expecting something else with it. And I have some thoughts about that, but overall I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the connective tissue with some other movies, which we'll discuss. And I thought there's some really good performances as well.
John, you have a Captain America shirt on. I got to go to you next.
Yeah,
it looks like Captain America shirt.
Captain America Autism Awareness thing. So this was from a few years ago.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think I'm fairly typical of what people are saying, which is it's not as good as it could have been, but it's better than it could have been as well. It's for me, it has all the elements of what you need from a movie, but it does feel a little bit, and probably comes down to the production side of it, as if people have thrown a lot of stuff at the wall to see what sticks, and not. While there's connective tissue to a lot of other movies, it's ironic that the movie doesn't feel particularly well put together, and it feels like there's been things hammered together, and you can see the seams. There were story elements that I just went, "What? Wait, hold on, what? Can you run that past me again?" kind of moment. And the moments that I liked were perfectly good. The action was perfectly good. The acting is perfectly good. The visual effects, apart from one thing, I thought were very good. But it didn't move me in any way. It felt like it was. I'm trying to think of the right word, but it almost felt like an old movie. Wouldn't have been remotely surprised if this movie could have been made maybe 8-9 years ago. It doesn't feel cutting edge in any way. It feels like you could almost slot it in apart from story elements. The style of it, the pacing of it feels like it's 5 or 6 years ago. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything that makes me want to go out and see it half a dozen times, which I have done with other movies. So it's fun. I recommend, it's a good couple of hours of fairly basic MCU stuff while we wait for the better stuff that's coming down the pipeline, I think.
Lee, I know better than to keep you as Guardians waiting too long and you start smashing coffee cups. What were your thoughts on Captain America?
Well, first of all, I think the fight choreography was on point. They really did a great job, not only matching it to what we established in Falcon and the Winter Soldier as he's learning to use the shield, but also just really getting a sense of how somebody who is a trained military operative and fighter would use that type of tech in a close quarter system. I think it was really fun, very unique. It wasn't just a rehash of Iron Man. If you look at this character, you can kind of say, okay, well, we've got Iron Man and Captain America and Black Panther all rolled into one, because you got the guy in the flying suit, you got the shield, and you got the vibranium. But he really is doing something very uniquely his own, which I thought was great. He also, as somebody who has religiously watched and enjoyed almost all of the MCU, both on the big screen and streaming, I think this was. I don't feel like this wrapped up a lot of storylines. I think this is bringing a lot of stuff to the forefront, because I feel like it's setting a bigger stage with stuff that's been smaller before, and I think we're not done with Thunderbolt Ross yet.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Lacey, what did you learn about Captain America in your movie foods classes?
I really liked this. I think I'm going to kind of trail off of what Lee was saying. I think that a lot of people were expecting this to answer a bunch of questions. I think it brought pieces from other properties in and left them on purpose so that we could experience. I think they're trying to build up the next phase. So I think I think they did it well. I wasn't expecting any, bows tied up, nice and pretty, and for this to be a one-off. I loved the costuming. I loved Falcon. I loved all the things. The one thing that I think maybe didn't hit for me was the leader. I feel like he didn't have enough going on. I feel he was not. They say that your hero is only as good as your villain. And I think that because there were, in essence, 3 villains in this movie, all 3 of them kind of had to share, the plot lines. And I don't think that any one of them got enough, like, big bad out of it. But other than that, and don't get me wrong, I loved him. Like Nelson, he's fantastic. He's fantastic in everything. He's awesome. I just don't think that he was given enough meat. In particular, I think that Giancarlo, I'm going to say his name wrong, Giancarlo
Esposito,
and Harrison Ford in their 2 respective, quote unquote bad guy roles. I think that they had a little bit more to chew on because they were kind of cameo bad guys. They were playing, in and out. So I'm interested to see what happens to the leader in the future if that becomes, I don't know. Yeah. But other than that, I very much enjoyed it. I dug everything from the costuming to the action to the, all the things.
Well, we're going to get into some more specifics too here. Derek, you came across from a galaxy far, far away to talk about Captain America. I want to know what you thought.
I really enjoyed the movie. Out of current Phase 4 and Phase 5, I would put it as my second favorite. Just behind Spider-Man, No Way Home, which obviously was, one of the best movies we've had, I would say, in a long time when you think about, post Endgame. But I think there was a bit of a challenge if you think about the way this character had to be portrayed, right? Because this is really kind of the first character in the MCU where we had already an established character, and then we had to basically in the sidekick, and essentially, right, which kind of had their own character developed, and now taking on that mantle, right? And I really like the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. I thought it was a phenomenal series. I thought it dealt with some real life issues, and that's what I really like about Captain America, and especially with the way Anthony Mackie's the Falcon portion portrays that, Sam Wilson portrays that, is because he is just a normal guy, right? Like, yeah, he's got some combat training. He's got some, training, beyond just the normal person when it comes to that. But, here he is, again, dealing with, should I have taken the super soldier serum, right? And the fact that he hasn't, and, the way that he has to struggle and the challenges that he has. And I thought it was, like I said, a really good way of portraying the character, and kind of, I think what everyone's kind of touched upon, right? There felt like there were some gaps, and I think that was the challenge, right? Because you've already had that, I can't remember if it was 6 or 8 episodes in the series that we got this first established movie, but again, him taking on this mantle, and I think they had to kind of make sure that they didn't just skip right to where he's at now for folks that didn't watch the series, right? Because you got to remember, there's going to be people that go to these movies that don't watch the series stuff. So you kind of have to fill in that time gap or the things that they're doing from there. So I thought they did as best as they could from that perspective. So yes, a couple things might have felt a little forced or rehashed. But I'm with, Lacey and what Lee were saying, like there could have been more with the movie, and what John was talking about too earlier. But overall, like I said, I really enjoyed the movie, and I thought it did a great job of establishing Sam Wilson as Captain America.
I think all very good points, but you know what? I saved our biggest hitter for last, because this man probably next to me is the biggest Marvel Comics MCU fan on the Fandom Podcast Network, and it's running neck and neck. But Mr. Cat Cedar, I desperately need your thoughts on Captain America.
Everything everyone said, I agree with. They needed to give all the characters a little more punch, a little more background, a little more push forward. I would have loved to have seen more Sidewinder. I would love to have seen more Leader. They put them where they could. They did what they could do. Captain America, Falcon, Sam Wilson, great job. I mean, every character did a good job in their roles, but I really liked how Sam was his own Captain America, not Steve Rogers, not Bucky Barnes when he becomes Captain America. The new Falcon, great job as well. My again biggest downside to the movie was just like here's build up, here's some build up, and we're gonna stop here. Here's some build up, and we're gonna stop here. It's like just push it, give us a little more, show us what we want to see. If I was gonna rate the movie personally, a 7 out of 10. Will I see it again in the theater? Probably not, because it was good. I didn't have that push to the end that I wanted for what it was.
I know. That's fair enough. Well, guys, we're going to shift into the next phase here. We're going to talk a little bit about the cast, and I got a little Marvel trivia as well. Okay, guys, we had a phenomenal cast in this movie. I mean, you just do the quick rundown of the cast here. You had Anthony Mackie, obviously, as Sam Wilson, Captain America. Harrison Ford taking over from the deceased William Hurt for President Thaddeus Ross. Danny Ramirez returning from Falcon and Winter Soldier as Joaquin Torres and taking over the Falcon mantle. Shira Haas as Ruth Bat Seraph. You had Carl Lumbly returning from Falcon and Winter Soldier as Isaiah Bradley. Tim Blake Nelson as Samuel Stearns. The amazing Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder. And some other cameos and other people that were involved in this. It was a phenomenal cast. And before we get into maybe some of our favorite people of the cast, there's a conversation that I think really needs to be had when we're talking about this film, and that's the Anthony Mackie conversation. Anthony Mackie comes in not only playing Sam Wilson, who has huge shoes to fill as Captain America and filling Steve Rogers' shoes, but he has huge shoes to fill. It's just being a part of the MCU as he's taking over the Captain America role from Chris Evans, probably one of the most popular actors in the MCU. And I just kind of want to get everybody's take on what they thought of Anthony Mackie in the film, because I thought he was outstanding. I thought he made Captain America his own. He made him just as entertaining in his own way as Chris Evans, and I think he did a phenomenal job of honoring the character and making this a Captain America for this new generation of the MCU. John, what did you think of Anthony Mackie in this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, he's the strongest thing in it, and that it could easily have been that he wasn't up to the job, that the film wasn't up to the job of selling it. I don't think the material is as good as it necessarily should have been, but I don't think there's any criticism to be had of Anthony Mackie. It's as you say, the story has to be a little bit difficult. There is still that feeling of, is this the real Captain America, or a temporary one? You have to convince the audience that they are coming to see the new Captain America, and I think he did perfectly well with that as a performance and within the story as well. That's one of the things I think they handled very well. I just don't think the story, as you've already said, so many swirling pieces that feel like they're 3/4 of what was intended, and that quarter was always important. But Mackie himself, anchoring it at the center, no complaints at all. I think he handled it very well. I think it was just kind of the maelstrom around him that probably didn't do him the best of favors.
Lee, you brought up a good point about the fight choreography carrying over from the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and you see it as Anthony Mackie's even refined that fight choreography even more as Captain America in this film. What did you think of Anthony's performance in this?
I think that it's stayed true to the strength that he had from really his first scene. In all the way back in 2012 when Captain America and the Winter Soldier came out, where he's trying to keep up with everybody, but he's also trying to be there for everybody. You really do see that counselor, that vet, that guy that understands that the bed's too soft. And the fact that he is trying to reason with Ross instead of fight him, in that scene at the end, I think is staying true not only to the legacy of Sam, but the reason why Steve chose Sam. And also, I think it was very well brought up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Agent Walker, where Steve never said, "I'm Captain America." He said, "I'm Steve Rogers." This is a person wearing the mantle and still being true to themselves, whereas he doesn't feel like it gives him any special privileges. And I think that was an interesting through line that they really, had from, skinny Steve all the way through to yesterday. And it's kind of I'm glad that they kept that idea.
Yeah. Derek, what about you? What did you think of Anthony Mackie taking over the mantle pretty much officially? Yes, he did kind of at the Falcon and Winter Soldier, but this is really the first big carry film for Anthony Mackie in the MCU.
Yeah, no, I like Anthony Mackie as, characters, the way he portrays or act, the way his acting career is gone, right? I like the way he portrays Sam Wilson. The whole point, I was waiting for Bucky's monologue speech to really kind of be really sappy at the end, where he's like, "He picked you because of your heart, Sam." Because really that's, what the biggest thing that always had Captain America, the fact that, he would do what he thought was right. And, he never gave up. Right. And kind of that's where you want to have Sam have those moments, and it's really difficult, as everyone mentioned, right, when you're trying to take over this role. And again, that's where I think that they're trying to do their best. Right. I think that's going to be one of the things that is, especially as we get to some of these, older characters that are going to necessarily pass on the mantle at some point, or we get other versions in this multiverse. But I think, again, I like Anthony Mackie. I like almost everything he's done. I feel his range is pretty good. I could have felt like he probably could have had a little bit more drama in this, where I felt that they did a better job, especially at his end speech, where he's talking about trying to, be Captain America and, as a black man in America. I felt like they kind of glossed over that in this, where it was just kind of like everyone's kind of accepted him now. You didn't really get the feel again where he's at as the person, and the people that he's, representing. It was all these, politics and army people. So I don't feel like it really brought that much opportunity for him to have the drama moments. But like I said, I like him, and I think he's been doing a great job. And like I said, it's all what John mentioned. It's all about the material. So I think Anthony can do it. He just needs to make sure we give him the right material.
I think that's fair. Kat, what about you? Anthony Mackie as Captain America. We got the taste of it in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but this is his first time carrying it in the MCU fully.
Amazing job. Absolutely amazing. He's got the mantle. He's showing the world that I am Captain America, as Steve Rogers was Captain America, not as, this soldier, just phenomenal, spot on, great job. Probably new generations are going to go, "Oh, that's Captain America. Okay, cool. Now I know who that is." And when they see Steve Rogers, like, "Who's that guy?"
I think that's a good point. Lacey, Anthony Mackie, I'm a huge fan of him. What were your thoughts on his portrayal of this really classic character?
Okay, so I was worried. Because Cap is a Boy Scout. That's his whole persona. Like, Captain America is like, the innocent, I don't understand that reference. He's the Boy Scout. And I just didn't know if someone who doesn't have that persona, because I loved Sam as Falcon. Like, he was great. He had the attitude and the kind of devil may care when it was necessary, and all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of nervous going into it, like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. Is whatever. I loved it. I loved him. I thought he was fantastic. He completely took it as his own. I think that he stepped into it and made it fit him. And I think that that's hard to do when you're trying to step into a character, not only that has been played by someone for, 7 films, but then you're looking at the history going back to, 1938?
About that,
comics, back to, World War whatever in the comics. And so you're looking at someone who is, there's a bunch of boxes you have to fill. And Anthony Mackie was like, nah, man, I got my boxes. I'm good. And I love that. I also love that they brought Danny Ramirez back. I loved the whole cast. I think everyone was cast appropriately. I liked the fact that Sam was very, clear that he had his own reservations. I think that he was the audience talking about, what if I can't do it? Should I have taken the serum? The whole conversation he has with Bucky, where Bucky was like, he picked you. Like you were saying, he picked you because you have the heart, and it doesn't matter if Captain America has the super serum or whatever. He's doing this for his reasons, and I think that works. And I was very delighted that I enjoyed it as much as I did. I was not expecting to.
Well, that's a good thing. Mr. Wright, so we have gone on the Anthony Mackie love train on Culture Clash for many a different film. What did you think of his performance in this film?
I was brought back to when we were first introduced to him in Winter Soldier, and immediately clicking with Steve Rogers' character, and also giving him the songs that he needs to listen to and to add to his list, and the camaraderie that we see that begin from there that go through the rest of the films carried over. And then I felt that Mackie really stepped it up with Falcon in the Winter Soldier, and then obviously getting a camaraderie with Bucky there. But we all knew that it was the heart that's inside of Sam's, inside Sam, that I felt that really resonated in this film as Mackie brought that out. And we saw obviously in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series. And that I really felt that he wasn't too big for the stage. I felt that he did a great job. He commanded his performance. And we know that, obviously he's being compared to everyone within the MCU, of him not being Steve Rogers. And people here as fans doing the same thing, I'm sure. But I felt that he stepped to the stage, he commanded it. And the fact that he's just a regular good guy that, questions the U.S. government for good reasons, and I love that was part of the thread of this movie as well, for good reason. And I think that he proved why he is Captain America and why Steve chose him, and that Bucky needed to give him a little push again, saying, "You're the reason why you were chosen. You're the reason. You're it." And I really, really enjoyed the performances, and there's some really nice moments.
Well, before you take off, Kevin, come on back here, because I want to ask you a question I'm going to hit with the panel, because this movie had such a huge cast, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the rest of this cast. I'm putting this out to the panel. Kevin, I'll start with you. Give me a character or two that also stood out for you in this film. I think the cast was phenomenal, but I want to give everybody a chance to spotlight a character that wasn't Anthony Mackie.
I liked Shira Haas as Ruth Bat Seraph. I'm not familiar with that character at all, but there was just something cool about her. This tiny little Israeli girl that can kick ass, and I wasn't sure if I could trust her at first. I'm like, what's her angle? And then you found out that you could. She became an ally. I thought she was great. She really surprised me. And I'm curious to see the actress in more things. I was looking at her IMDb going, nope, haven't seen any of these things, but I'm kind of curious about her. So I'll give a shout out to Shira.
Yeah, the character herself, they modified a little because of some things that are happening in the real world today, and I think they didn't want to go near it too much. But she's based off a Marvel comic books character named Sabra, and one of the changes they made was her affiliation with the Red Room instead of some of the other background things that they did.
Right.
But no, I thought she was very good. John, what about you? Who stood out in the cast for you?
She was a nice surprise. I'd seen her. I think was it in the 3 Body Problem. I think not the 3 Body Problem. There was a recent time travel thing. I always get the name where it's the Jack the Ripper, and it's like in 3 different eras. She was in that. There's a lot. It's like I said earlier. There was a lot of stuff spinning around, and there was a lot of great. I love Tim Blake Nelson, but I'm bewildered what was happening with his character in this. They all feel like extra stuff that was shot later, and plot wise just doesn't work. But I think he's great. This is one of the things in the film. There's lots of great people doing great things, and for me, it doesn't all hold together. I loved Harrison Ford doing the stuff, but you're right. There's so many characters spinning around that though I will go, oh, that's so and so, he's great, I love him, or she's fantastic, and oh yeah, I really like that moment. But it's so fast that none of them seem to get, none of the supporting cast get the coverage that they need. You know, Esposito got, you know, come and gone. Tim Blake Nelson, and you know, okay, bit of a spoiler here, but I don't understand how really his character arc almost ends in the film. It was just like, what's going on? But I liked watching him do it. That was the whole thing. I was sat there watching the movie going, they're great. I like this. But coming out of it going, but I wanted more of that character or that character or less of that character and have them appear somewhere else and be really good. That, for me, that was one of the problems, that I enjoyed almost all the performances in there, but frequently they just weren't enough. They were just like, oh, look, we've got so-and-so. They get a few lines. And there's some really, really A-list people here, and people I would go and see a movie because, and they did very little. Giancarlo Esposito, great in the scenes that he's in, love it, fantastic. But again, wasted. I would rather them kept some of these characters back and put them somewhere else. It sounds like I didn't like the movie. I did, but I was sitting there almost immediately after going, it feels like a second draft. It didn't feel like the finished movie. And I would like to have seen what was on the cutting room floor with some of the characters and scenes that I think would have made it a better movie and would have serviced them better.
Lee, what about you? Who stood out for you outside of Anthony Mackie? Who in the cast grabbed your attention?
I got to say that Harrison Ford, this might have been one of the best performances I've seen from him in a few decades. I think it was a culmination of a lot of things that he's played. Obviously, we got him here playing the President of the United States for the second time. But also, ever since regarding Henry, he's kind of had this bewildered face that he does every so often that I think has become like his resting thing. And I think it's the first time it's made sense in a movie in a while, because he is going through all this. I think that he shows peaks and valleys of emotion that we don't usually get from Harrison Ford anymore because we're not writing for it. But I don't think that plot plays off with William Hurt trying to play the Red Hulk. I don't believe in William Hurt's ability to Hulk out. And before that, we had Sam Elliott playing him. And I don't believe we have a version of Sam Elliott that's calm enough to believe that there is a level of anger he could go any higher that would cause something to Hulk out. I really loved the entire performance from Harrison Ford on this. I had also got to say, Giancarlo Esposito is always, a fascinating guy to watch because he is methodical. He's not your typical bad guy in any of the movies he's in. I mean, I remember him all the way back in the Spike Lee's, I think it was College Days, and just being mesmerized by him. And he's still got that. But now we've got Sidewinder. We do have, we had, what was the bad guy in Luke Cage?
Oh, Cottonmouth.
Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
So I think next we do need to have Black Mamba. I think Uma Thurman needs to come back and start fulfilling the Deadly Viper assassination
knew
squad.
You were going to go that direction when you were asking that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that, and with going back to the comments on Tim Blake Nelson, I really think it was a missed opportunity not to have him in She-Hulk, which I enjoyed. A lot of people didn't. Yeah. But putting him there would have established so much more for him to do here. We had, I think, a couple nods to him, but we never saw him. That would have been the time to introduce him. And I think this would have been a good use of Blonsky as well, bringing him in here, because who else could really stop a Hulk? Sam was able to reason with him, but if they hadn't had that trick in the bag, that would have been a good time to bring my man Tim Roth back, because anytime he's on screen, I'm happy.
You mentioned Esposito. One of the things I was sitting during the movie was thinking, wouldn't he have made a better leader in this movie? I was waiting for it because he's always playing these kind of cerebral manipulation. You know, he's kind of the astute guy, very, very sort of like, oh, what's this guy? This guy's going to have an out. And all the way through the movie, I'm going like, I want to see more of this character. And I know it has to link all back to the Hulk movies. But I was sitting there going like, God, I would love to have seen what he would have done with the leader.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more of his Sidewinder still to come in the MCU. At least that's my hope. Lacey, what about you? You mentioned how you loved everybody in the cast, but is there somebody that really just stood out for you with the rest of the supporting cast? You're muted.
Dang it. I want to kind of bounce off what Lee was saying. I loved Harrison Ford in this. I didn't know if I was going to. And I particularly liked Xosha Roquemore, who played his aide, because I had only seen her in Mindy Project, where she played like this. I mean, she's really great with comic timing. I know she was in Atlanta, and she's been in a few other like dramatic roles, but I hadn't seen any of them. I don't have time in my life for drama. I don't watch a lot of drama in film. I did not know the range that she had. She's so good in this role, and she didn't have a lot, but I feel like she's going to be one of those really good recurring characters that might end up having a little bit more to do in the next, as we move forward. And I also, I got to tell you, I love Danny Ramirez. I loved, oh gosh, what's his name?
Joaquin.
Joaquin, yes. He was great. I think that I love the fact that he kept asking if he could meet Ant-Man. Because he thinks Ant-Man's hot. He's not wrong. But yeah, so those would be kind of the two or three that I would go with. And also, I mean, Ruth Bat-Seraph, that was a great character, and I really want to see her, and I totally ship her and Bucky. Like, that would be awesome. Like I would be there. I'm here for that. That would be awesome.
Kat, what about you? Who stood out?
Liv Tyler's character. She stood out amazing for me. No, Sidewinder. Giancarlo Esposito obviously is. I love Sidewinder. I love the whole Weapon Society. I would have loved to have seen more with him. Just even maybe on the phone talking to other Serpent members. And then when he left, and as he was leaving, instead of saying you'll see me when I get out, or I'll get out and I'll see, I would love to have seen him just teleport away and do his little Sidewinder thing. But you got to give us something. But he was my standout for all the sub characters besides Mackie.
Carrick, what about you?
You'll appreciate this one just because everyone's named everyone. So, Kyle, I would have picked Seth Rollins as King Cobra, but we obviously did not get that. So hopefully there'll be some director's cuts, right? That we'll get since they did film that. That would be wonderful to see where we could have gotten some of that. Because, yeah, I mean, like I said, everybody was great. I mean, you're talking A-list. I would definitely say, to compare Mackie to Ford, right, and for Anthony to hold his ground against Harrison was pretty good, right? Especially to Lee's point. I mean, obviously Harrison plays an angry white guy really well, so it was a great Thaddeus Ross. But like I said, there was nobody specific. Like I said, I just agree with everyone. I would have liked maybe another 30 minutes or so, right, depending on what the material was out there. Just everyone was great. Some people could have used a little bit more screen time or a little bit more character development. Or again, what are we going to get? Like, this is part one. Where's part two? Right. So hopefully this movie will do well and we'll get Captain America 5.
Kevin, I think you and I might be wavelengthing here. Can you bring up the slide you've got ready to queued up? Because this is one of my favorite things to come out of Falcon Winter Soldier. And I know you love this character too.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Carl Lumbly as Isaiah Bradley, because you feel the pain that he went through in Captain America Winter Soldier TV series. And I love the fact that he got carried over into this. And when you see what happens when he gets triggered to do what he needs to do, as well as other people do in this film, he carries this out. And I love the fact that he has a redemption towards the end of this as well. But I absolutely love Carl in this. I'm glad they brought him back.
Yeah, I think the Isaiah Bradley character is actually very important to the Captain America mythos, and I thought he has done a phenomenal job. But Kevin, if you can come back in here for a moment, sir. I went through the Shield files, and a little help from you. We got a little bit of Marvel trivia to discuss.
All right. Oh, looks like a cat wants to say something. He's muted there, though. What's up, Cat?
Popping Cat.
I just realized when they showed Sidewinder the first time, and Falcon was fighting him, who was the minion he was fighting? Could that have been an Anaconda kind of figure? Or a Viper?
It wasn't Anaconda. I want to say it was Bushwhacker. They said in that.
Bushwhacker, maybe? Okay. I couldn't remember who that could have been. I remember he was using the snake kind of like weapon in the back of his hand, pulling down.
Copperhead. It was Copperhead.
Copperhead. Okay.
Yeah. I do have to do one other quick shout out here, Kevin. Commander Dennis Stumphy, who was the military leader that was friends with Sam Wilson. That is a shout out to a classic Captain America sidekick by the name of D-Man.
Was he the one that was killed later in the movie?
Yeah, he was one that was killed later in the movie. Yes.
Yeah.
D-Man had a horrible combination Wolverine, old school Daredevil yellow and black outfit as a superhero, and it was giving that character a little shout out. So I just got to shout out that. But we do have a little bit of Marvel trivia. I'll start off, Kevin, if you want to help me afterwards. But announced the same day the Falcon and the Winter Soldier finale premiered. This movie was so. But there's some interesting Harrison Ford trivia here, Kevin.
Yeah, so Harrison Ford replaces the late William Hurt as Thaddeus Ross, making this Ford's first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This also marks the 6th time a role was recast in the MCU. The previous 5 were Don Cheadle as War Machine replaced Terrence Howard, Mark Ruffalo as Hulk replaced Edward Norton, Zachary Levi as Fandral replaced Josh Dallas, Ross Marquand as Red Skull replaced Hugo Weaving, and Catherine Newton as teenage Cassie Lang was replaced by Emma Furman. Several roles who were also cast in What If. Ford is the first casting replacement due to a real-life death because William Hurt passed away on March 13th, 2022.
And we're going to get into this more here shortly in the next phase, but this was Tim Blake Nelson and Liv Tyler's first Marvel Cinematic Universe film in 17 years as Samuel Stern's leader and Betty Ross after The Incredible Hulk in 2008.
Yeah. Sidewinder was added to the film during reshoots.
And thank goodness he was, because I thought Giancarlo Stanton stole every scene he was in. But the fight between Sam Wilson and Red Hulk contained more than 300 visual effect shots.
One poster features Sam blocking Red Hulk's punch with his shield. This was an homage to the cover of Captain America number 230, dated February 1979, drawn by Ron Wilson.
This movie was originally titled Captain America New World Order. However, the title was later changed to Brave New World. Although Marvel Studios never released a statement as to why, some speculate it was changed due to the phrase New World Order possibly being linked to anti-Semitism.
And the last one we have here is this is the 3rd Marvel movie released on Valentine's Day after Daredevil 2003 and Madam Web 2024.
Yeah. Interesting histories there. But Guy, Lacey, did you have something you wanted to interject?
Yeah. So John Slattery played Howard Stark in Avengers Endgame, and he was originally played by Jared Sanders in Iron Man. Just throwing that out there.
That's true. So, Lee.
Please go on.
I think it's interesting that Giancarlo Esposito was added in. This would have been a really cool movie if the only bad guys had been the people that had the flash on the phone. And I feel like you can plug him in there and just get a couple dialogue scenes with Sam as Cap. I'd honestly be interested in seeing that version of the movie. It's like that. What was the movie where Denzel was trying to fight the devil and he kept on jumping bodies?
Devil in Blue Dress? No, that was
no.
Fallen.
Yeah.
That
would have been a really interesting route to go, because then he really would have had to pull his punches. But yeah.
Well, guys, it's time to shift into phase 3 here. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the other MCU connections in Captain America: Brave New World. Okay, guys, I got a question for everybody here. There's a lot of ties into the MCU, but this movie, more than I think any other MCU film, dealt with some long, long dangling plot threads that have not been truly addressed in the MCU, mainly from the movie that for a long time Marvel really didn't want to acknowledge that much because of everything that happened with Edward Norton and a few other things. But the Incredible Hulk, lots of ties to the Incredible Hulk in this film, from Sam Stearns as Peter, Thunderbolt Ross, returning of Liv Tyler. You, so I kind of just have a general question for the panel, and we'll just kind of run it down. Do you guys feel that this movie maybe redeemed some of the Incredible Hulk some? Because Marvel has had a history of taking some of their movies that some people have considered flops and making something of it important. I mean, I'm actually going to start with you on this.
You know, we've always joked about as we cover these movies and such on True Believers, and you've used the term redemption tour and all that kind of stuff, and you got to look at Avengers Endgame. The time heist. It made Thor: The Dark World a little more interesting. And I've gone back and forth on the Hulk, and I even before this movie came out, I've enjoyed it a little bit more and more. And you got the cool little Blu-ray going here with the lenticular cover, which I like, and it's got like the green casing. I love this thing. But I thought it was really nice that we got heavy dose of this, and it a huge tie to it is great, especially since we have some members of the film coming back. I think it was a good idea, and especially for the next film we'll talk about. But yeah,
John, I think I want to go to you next on this.
Now listen, I didn't dislike either of the sort of freestanding, as it were, Hulk movies. They weren't as good as what came later. The Marvel Universe, what hadn't really coalesced into anything interesting, and there were brave attempts, flawed, but fine. So the fact that they're referencing back, I think is fine. It's great. It's Marvel, joining the dots a little bit. It's interesting you said it, about this is the first Marvel film that Liv Tyler has done, since the days of this movie. I'm not sure she did this movie. I'm sorry, I may be the only person who sat there watching it at the end. Big spoiler for anybody. But sat watching that final scene, going, that's not Liv Tyler. That's not. It's the same way as I went, that's not Carrie Fisher and that's not Peter Cushing. It's like, I'm pretty sure she didn't do any work on this movie apart from a bit of ADR, for the telephone call, which is a shame, because I'd rather have her just as an off-screen presence, tying back into the movie. I like the fact that they referenced her, they brought it back, even though they haven't really done anything, obviously, with Betty and Bruce, since then. I think I think it was great that they brought her back as an idea. I don't think it was particularly, again, that final scene was remotely well executed. I thought that was absolutely appalling CGI. But I like the fact that there was that connective tissue. I would like to have seen more of Tim Roth, as I say, that would have been a nice thing as well, a nod. But it joins some dots that are useful for dotting and crossing. I don't know how much it has impact going forward. I would hope the leader gets better used. But I like the fact that they referenced it and built on it in some ways as a sequel. But it was a symptom of a film that didn't quite know which way it was pivoting. Is it going to be a sequel? Is it going to be a political thriller? Is it going to be, this decade's Winter Soldier? Is it going to be a bit funny? Is it a buddy movie? I just got the feeling it wasn't quite. I think there was lots of voices in the room and not one of them won out. But yeah, it was nice to have the nods back to the Hulk movies.
Lacey, I saw you with your hand up. You got something? Your thoughts on this?
I had the same thoughts when I went that final scene, the coda, and I actually went online. I kind of looked it up, and I found an article released by Disney. It said, it was very clear in what it said. It said that Liv Tyler was on set, and they did not use any body doubles, which leads me to believe they may have had to use CGI to either make her older or younger, or maybe she's got, maybe she's working on something else right now and she's got blonde hair, whatever. So I think that they may have done some face altering, but they said, everyone was saying like, she wasn't even there. Like, what's going on? They were very clear that she was on set, and they were very clear that they did not use body doubles, but I think that they may have had to, Harrison Ford's 82 years old. Yeah. She's supposed to be his daughter. Apparently, is she supposed to look like she's 50? She doesn't look like she's 50 these days. She may be 48. I think she's slightly younger than me, but she's always been the fair skin, and she's always looked younger than she is. But other than that, I think that the Incredible Hulk connections, I think the Eternals connections, I think all the political stuff, the conversations about taking on the mantle and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that it was any, I don't think it was like a genius move to include all those things. I think those were those were requirements to make this film work. I don't think that any of that stuff was, ooh, we should do this. It was like, okay, we're in the room. We're going to do this movie. We got to address X, Y, and Z if we're going to have Red Hulk. We got to address X, Y, and Z if we're going to have, this. So I think it was just a matter of, making it work and being including everything that needs to be included. I think that they did pull in, you can't ignore the Eternals because that would be insane.
And we're going to get into that in just a minute here, Lacey. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's where we were.
Yeah, we're going to get into the eternal connection. I want to finish up on the Hulk thoughts too. And I think you brought into the whole Thunderbolt Ross, because that was another thing that carried through was the Sokovia Accords and his responsibility with those and what happened in Incredible Hulk. Kat, what do you think? Do you think they did a good job of wrapping up some of these dangling plot threads from Incredible Hulk and some of these Thunderbolt Ross things that have happened through the MCU's history?
I'm in the same vein with Lacey. They could have done it all in the very beginning, mentioned a few snippets, mentioned this, mentioned that, and then sort of just let it drift back. Because anyone who saw the 80 whatever there was, Hulk, the leaders there at the end, the leaders here. So they sort of tied it in well, but you didn't need to do as much as they did with it. They could have just, here it is, and there it goes.
Lee, what did you think?
Well, I will brook no insults to Hulk, because any movie where they rip a car in half and use each half as a boxing glove to punch something is fine cinema, in my opinion. Yes. I think that was... I cheered so loud for that the first time. I'm like, this is why I go to movies. I love the original too. He beat up a tank with another tank. He punched the sky and won. He punched a lake and won. Like, how do you not love this movie? I saw that one 4 times in the cinema. But I think the getting to those dangling threads, I think that the threads that they started in that really began the MCU. Because Iron Man works as a standalone, but just the little bits of the Stark tech, just a little bit of the super soldier serum, even, they had the deleted scenes with Captain America's, whatchamacallit in the lodge.
Shield,
even without that, it's still the super soldier serum. It's still, the arms race that we get to in Iron Man 2, and I think it's, I like that it's now a big tapestry instead of a bunch of standalone movies. And I think that really did start with Hulk, which, again, I loved. I love that movie so much, and it's stupid fun.
Yeah. We're going to cycle back to you, John, real quick, because I know you have to get going here shortly. Real quick, I want to get your thoughts on the connections with the Eternals, and also, to what you're looking forward to as far as what's upcoming in the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, Eternals is a movie that a lot of people love to hate, and I didn't hate it. I just felt it was almost designed by AI. Ironically, there was just so many things they tried to throw at it again, and it didn't quite work. But it was beautiful to watch while you watched it. So obviously, I like the fact that they've tied in what was left from that movie. The gigantic hand coming up through the ocean is such a great visual. And I like that they've used that to introduce adamantium into the MCU. It might not please everybody, but it's quite a masterful move to be able to thread that through and say, hey, here's our access point. So yeah, I again, it's a movie that references a lot of older stuff and sort of gives you an update about what it's. So I'm glad they haven't just ignored the Eternals. There was a lot of stuff that was supposed to be huge in that movie, which is kind of rendered less huge because it's been barely referenced since. So I'm glad this did get referenced. It wasn't just pushed aside. Eternals is a great little time waster. You know, it's full of A-list names, you know, dancing around with CGI, and there's sometimes nothing wrong with that. So I'm glad that they used reference without going overboard on it. It was just turned something into a plot element. Will it be important going forward? I don't know. If it never gets referenced again, then in the words of Sheldon Cooper, Hulk's sad. But no, it's I like the fact that it referenced the movies. The movie's coming up. Thunderbolts could be absolutely brilliant. Could be just the kind of not quite Deadpool and Wolverine, but that kind of guilty pleasure. And going writing large on stuff. Fantastic Four, obviously. Could be phenomenal, could not be. I'm keeping my powder dry on that one for the moment. But there's a lot of good stuff coming up. I'm waiting for the the Avengers movies coming out. I know that they're going into production shortly, and that'll be next year. And the fact that the guys behind the Russo brothers behind the Avengers are currently starting to produce my brother's book for Netflix. I have to get that promotional side in. So yeah, and there's a lot of stuff I'm looking forward to over the next year or two, MCU and generally in the cinema as well.
Well, John, before you get out of here, where can people find you on social media?
I'm not quite as out there as I used to be because I've just been too busy. I'm on Facebook. I am not on Twitter anymore for lots of reasons. You can find me on Blue Sky. We'll be there goes the day on that, and on Facebook as well. And of course, regularly here, you find me in the gutter and drag me through and back into the lights of all sorts of stuff here. So I'm regularly on here. So you'll get me somewhere or other.
Kevin, it's your turn to do the plug.
By the way, John, thanks again for coming on. And yes, I did find your star log that you contributed with a Highlander 3 article. I'll be hunting you down later.
It does exist.
Good to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, John. Yeah. Take care, John.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Marsh, I want to come over to you. What do you think about all the connections and loose threads that Captain America seemed to at least start making some ties, if not wrapping up?
Yeah, I will go back real quick to the Hulk. I was going to comment simply. It felt because it's interesting if you read some of the articles out there on what they had to reshoot, and it almost feels like it was like almost half the movie, or at least they had to doctor up things. But really, I mean, if you think about what happened almost a year to go to this date, Disney, and / Marvel reacquired the rights to the Hulk from Universal, right? So does it feel like that they then, I got this, I got to shove this into something, right? And, again, we like the movie, but that it, at that price to tie up some of these ends that we've been talking about from the Hulk, did it cost us what could have been a, simple spy thriller movie around, Captain America, Sam Wilson versus the Serpent Society, right? For example. And not had so much of the Red Hulk and the leader and all the ties there. So, no, with the Eternals, again, I'm one of the few people out there too that enjoyed the Eternals. I actually felt that I wish it would have gone into a series because I think there was so much greatness in there that it really deserved more than the 2 hours that it got. Just because I really wanted to see the character development, the time periods, all the stuff that they did, and really feel like even to this point, I'd still be okay if they retroactively did a series and gave us some of those characters, gave us an episode on each of them, right? I mean, I think most of those actors probably wouldn't come back just because there was so much online hate and, they got a lot of flack for it. But again, it wasn't because of the actors, right? It was a script that was, probably great stories. even though it was a limited series essentially in the comics as well. But yeah, as everyone's talked about, it's great to finally get these references, and what we're able to connect the pieces. And yeah, if unfortunately, if we never get Eternals 2 or Black Knight or anything else that's around it, it's a sad day. But at some point they'll probably come back and reference it because they'll eventually run out of content, the way they're producing shows and movies. So but yeah, I mean, the way we got adamantium introduced was very clever, and yeah, it definitely opens us for the others, aka mutants.
Kevin, I'm just flabbergasted that you actually own a physical copy of the Eternals, considering I know your feelings about that movie. Lacey, you were talking about the Eternals a little bit ago. I want to give you a chance to finish your thought on that. Unmute.
I dug the Eternals. I really did. I didn't have a problem with it at all. I didn't have any struggles with like everyone saying there was an agenda and Disney's has to do the whatever. I watch a movie, I enjoy the movie. I'm not looking at political. I'm not looking at just let it go. I will say that I think Derek's right about Disney not sleeping on their purchases. I'll never forget that like 6 days after Disney bought Star Wars, they managed to put the Star Wars ringtone on Ethan Embry's phone in Once Upon a Time, the very next episode. And from what I understand, they actually like redubbed it to make because they were like, oh, let's do this now. So I think it's interesting that the timing. I think that does kind of work into why we ended up where we are with the plot of this film. And I'm not mad at it. Like I enjoy it. I think that I really wanted to see Eros. What is it? Harry Styles played the Stinger for Eternals.
Yeah,
I thought it would have been a great character to come forward, especially because he was Thanos's, I guess, sibling or half sibling or whatnot. And I don't know the comics, right? So
that is a whole other podcast to go into all that.
Honestly, I feel like this might, because so far we've had 4 people out of 7 who have said that they've enjoyed the Eternals. This might be like something where we should do an actual podcast on the Eternals. I really dug it. I just got the 4K with the new badge. It's got the pin back with it. That's really awesome. Is that the one you've got, Kevin?
It's a 4K. I don't know if it's the one you got.
Okay, gotcha. It was a special edition or whatever that came with a pin. It's a nice gold, lapel pin or whatever. So the rest of the question was looking forward, or are we waiting?
Oh no. Well, let me bounce around. Kat, I'm going to get to you in just a second. Kevin, I need to cycle back to you because I need to know, was this enough of a connection to make Eternals redeemable in any way for you?
Okay, so I'm famously originally not a fan of this film. When this film came out, I famously said this was the first major fumble in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I didn't think Thor, Dark World was a fumble because there was a lot of cool stuff with it, but I went on record saying the Eternals was it. And I thought it was bold that this movie used the Eternals to introduce adamantium. And so I always like to kind of go back and revisit something, especially when I make a statement like that about, a movie in a universe that I absolutely love. So I actually rewatched it today and realized, hey, I need to put it in my letterbox. I need to rate it too, so I just put it in my letterbox and I rated it. Sorry, didn't help. Gave it a 1. It's boring AF. And there was just too much CG fighting action with the demon dogs, and and I honestly I thought the most fascinating thing about the damn movie was what Jon Snow was doing at the end of the film, and I feel like it was just a jumbled mess of what it was trying to do, and it really, really sucks because man, that movie is stacked with a great cast, with a bunch of several Game of Thrones alumni. You have Angelina Jolie, you have Salma Hayek, Kumail Nanjiani. I mean, it's a really, really good cast, but man, it is a complete mess, and I still have trouble following it. And I'm glad though that they made reference to it. They didn't forget about it. And then you know what? We're going to introduce Adamantium to the MCU through the Eternals. I actually think is a brilliant move, to be honest with you, even though I still don't care for the movie. And yes, I will own of all the MCU, I will still buy the physical media for reasons.
Kat, we haven't had a chance to get your thoughts on the connection with Hulk and with the connection with the Eternals. I just got to say, I give them a lot of credit for doing something that will make people be at least curious to go revisit Eternals if they haven't, because to make this the source of adamantium within the MCU is actually a brilliant move to like make people say, oh, I guess I need to go check out Eternals if I haven't seen it. But as a whole, how do you feel with like tying up some of these very long, loose plot threads?
First off, I gotta love the way Kevin says adamantium.
Yeah.
Adamantium?
Adamantium.
Close enough, Pat. Close enough.
You called it adamantium. I'm like,
whatever. Whatever.
You know I love you. You know I love you.
I would watch that movie. Adamantium. I would watch Ant-Man with adamantium something.
Me too.
Maybe this is how they get the replacement for Pym particles.
Yeah, it'd be better than the Eternals. So there you go. Anyway, Kat, go ahead.
So this is what I'm going to say. Kevin knows my love for Wing Commander. I like Wing Commander better than the Eternals.
That was sarcasm, by the way, just so you know.
I hated Wing Commander. I hate Eternals. It is atrocious, terrible, the worst movie that they made out of all, even worse than the Hulk movies. It is so bad. Am I glad that they brought it back? Not really. However, for bringing into the MCU adamantium, great. Those people who are now going to go watch the Eternals, I'm sorry. I don't recommend it. I won't recommend it. Don't make a sequel. It won't be worth it. And also to answer, I think what Derek said, they are going to bring Black Knight in. He's supposed to be in the new Blade movies coming up. Or at least...
No, Wesley's already shot that down. There's only one Blade.
Right.
The Blade movies is about as much as a Star Wars movie at this point. I can't get hyped anymore until I actually see
I know, but they mentioned him that he's supposed to be in there in some way, shape, or form. So we probably still will see that. Fingers crossed. Because I love Black Knight.
Shots fired.
I like Black Knight. I thought he was a great character.
The podcast is getting testy, which I just want to say a couple quick things as far as this goes. I think it's brilliant Marvel move to how they handled bringing in some of these Hulk aspects. I understand some of the frustrations with the leader, but I think for especially what they were trying to do with this, I get the idea for using the leader. I don't know if it's the best way executed. I knew Liv Tyler was going to be in this, but my mind had put it out to actually see her on screen and hear her voice. I was like, wow, they really are going all in on this. And again, like I said, to tie adamantium to the Eternals and what happened there, I think was a brilliant move on the MCU's part. And going forward, it'll be interesting to see how it develops there. But guys, it's been a great podcast to talk about all these things of Captain America, Brave New World. But there's some other stuff coming for the MCU. Let's shift into our final phase. So it is a busy time for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, we have 3 films this year. Our first is hit now with Captain America, Brave New World. We have Thunderbolts coming out May 2nd. And in early July, we have the Fantastic Four as well. And Kevin, we have a few things coming up on Marvel television as well. We've got Daredevil right around the corner. We've got currently airing to the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated series. We've got several other things coming, but we've also got the Avengers films coming that we know are coming with that, which will be probably 2026 for the first one, which will be Avengers Doomsday, which marks the return of the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr. But I think I want to focus right now on the stuff that's coming this year. And we still have Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts. How excited for these films are you? Because I can say personally, I am incredibly excited for Thunderbolts. I think this has the potential to be the new version of Guardians of the Galaxy and just that the misfit characters coming together. Fantastic Four, The last trailer has got me a little bit more excited, but I still have some reservations. But I'm curious of what the panel thinks. Lee, what do you think about what's coming up for the MCU?
I think Thunderbolts is probably the one I'm most excited about right now. I think it has a chance to take, again, some ties to other projects and make them make sense, which I think Marvel's done a really good job with. Obviously, Agent Walker is great, and Florence Pugh as the new Black Widow is great, but I don't think Taskmaster was all that well received, even though I think it gives us an interesting character, something interesting to play with, and I love Olga Kurylenko. I've been a huge fan of hers since even before James Bond, when she was in Hitman and the Max Payne movies. I also think that it'll follow through on some Falcon and the Winter Soldier stuff about just this power vacuum that's out there that, was created by the death of the Avengers, and also the arms race that we really started with Captain America and Iron Man 2, of trying to get to these interesting spots. I'm interested to see what they do with Sentry, if it even is Sentry, because I feel like that might be the bait and switch for the movie, kind of like a la the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. But this one is the one that I'm most excited for. Fantastic Four, seeing, the head of Galactus kind of made me excited. But, we've also seen plenty of the, Celestials before that never really came to anything. I do like that it's being planned as part of a bigger series instead of standalone, which means that it's got some legs to move with. I love the retro futuristic 60s vibe. I just don't know how they're going to put that into our MCU, but I also like to let them tell the story before I make up my mind about it.
Fair enough. Lacey, what about you? What are you looking forward to as far as the MCU goes?
I'm excited to see some Thunderbolts. I'll watch anything that Sebastian Stan does. He's fantastic. He's been fantastic for a million years. I mean, was it The Covenant? I think was the first time I saw him.
Do we just get a Covenant shout out? I love that movie.
Right? I mean, come on, man. Like, I've been following this kid since forever. I'm excited. I know you said just this year, but I mean, I'm excited for Fantastic Four. I think that they're definitely going to do something. I don't know how, like Lee was saying, I don't know how they're going to, manage to get into the Doom of it all, but I feel like they're going to use Doom to kind of maybe do some sort of time whatever and get into our universe, and that's going to be awesome for the MCU. I'm excited for Daredevil. That's going to be awesome. I'm wondering if Ironheart is still on the menu. I feel like that's supposed to be.
It is, but we don't have confirmation whether it'll be this year or not. It's looking like it, but we don't have that 100% confirmation.
Okay. But originally it was supposed to be like October this year, right?
Yeah, that's still kind of the tentative, but we don't have an official tentative October for Ironheart, and then Christmas time for Wonder Man.
Got it. Well, I'm excited. I know a lot of people say that Thunderbolts is kind of like the MCU's answer to Suicide Squad, and I don't care. I think that sounds awesome. Let's do it. I'm in. Like, it looks fun. It looks amazing. I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Her little character, her little
the Countess.
Do what?
The Countess.
Yes, her little like 3 seconds in the trailer, well, just like, this is the worst. This is the worst group of people to put on this whatever. I think that's it's going to be fun. I'm interested to see how they're going to work Bucky into it when he's supposed to be running for Congress. But
there's a storyline there that they have to tell.
That I am not aware of, and I'm okay with that. I have a tendency to, if I know it's going to be big, if it's going to be Marvel, it's going to be Star Wars, it's going to be huge tentpole movie, I don't watch trailers. I know I'm going to see it. So,
Lee, you had something you want to add in real quick?
Yes, just on the Bucky thing as a congressman, what I really want to see is him and Agent 13 driving off in a convertible with a little title card that says Senator and Mrs. John Blutarsky. It's just such a total, because like you got the guy that barely talks, and like the crazy one, like I think that'd be the perfect end to that.
I'm not getting the reference. Can you explain?
Animal House.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. At the end, he hooks up with Betty, and they get married.
Gotcha.
Kat, I'm going to you next because I know how much you love the MCU and how much you love all the projects. I have a pretty good idea what's number one on your list coming up very shortly. But why don't you tell us what you're looking forward to?
I'm looking for Iron Fist season 2. Oh wait, no. Daredevil. That has to start right now, and I need to see it, all of it now. Cannot wait. Movie-wise, Thunderbolts, because even though they messed it up, Taskmaster, one of my favorite characters. Fantastic Four. I've never been a big Fantastic Four fan in the comics. I've read a lot of them, but the ones I read are all the older ones. But I liked what they're doing. And to answer the question that Lacey said, how they're going to bring them in, Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool is always the answer. Yeah, Derek, what about you?
I wish movies, theater studios would not put so much out in trailers, because I feel like it ruins the movies. I've been really trying to avoid Thunderbolts, because I am looking forward to it. But again, I felt like I got too much, especially when you had some great conversation from Red Guardian and his speech to the team and all that stuff. And I like those kind of touching moments as a surprise in movies. And I feel like it, ruins the movie when I already know it's coming. And I echo everyone's point about it, where is it Suicide Squad? Is it Guardians of the Galaxy? I'm fine either way. Again, as long as it's fun, it'll probably be just a strictly popcorn movie, and I shouldn't take it too serious. Though obviously, it'll have some impacts to the overall MCU. But am I looking forward to it? I mean, I was when it first was announced, but again, I think trailers ruin my anticipation for movies, especially when I try to be early to theaters so I could get comfortable and get my meal and everything. And I almost want to just start shutting myself off with the coming in late on purpose for that. But anyways, and then Fantastic Four, I think is a really cool premise. I am really curious to see how they're going to have this 60s, 70s sci-fi, B movie vibe going on, and how they're going to execute that. It's really piqued my interest. Again, I still question. I love Pedro Pascal, but he, I just don't know about him as Richards. But we'll see. Again, we talk about that's probably one of the best things that Marvel, or I should say, the Disney does when they're casting these characters. They pretty much nail everyone down, whether or not the movie's a success or not. Is always questionable. We always say, but coming out, I can definitely see that person as that Marvel character. So, but anyways, but I'm most excited for Daredevil. What does it look like? Obviously, getting the return characters. John Bernthal. I'll be honest, he must be coming out with like 6 movies this year in series, because he's like at everything. All the trailers I saw, there was like 2 trailers specifically he's in that wasn't even Daredevil related. When I was watching the trailers drop this past weekend for Captain America. So, but I love him anyways as an actor and everything he does. He's been kind of, typecast at this point, but, and all I'm saying is I know everyone else, is not going to like it, but I hope we do get a She-Hulk cameo in Daredevil. We better, just because I think that would be great to again tie.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
But anyways, I'm super excited for that one. And Ironheart, yeah, I mean, I again felt like it was just somebody thrown into Wakanda Forever because they were trying to cram everything when it was originally supposed to be a series. Then Disney, for whatever reason, tried to exploit what the original Black Panther did in the movie theaters, and I think that took away from what was actually going to be a deep, good story to replace Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa. But again, the movie was okay, but wasn't anything to continue to make me watch it again. But maybe we'll see this with Ironheart. So, but anyways, yeah, excited. I always enjoy this stuff, and we'll see where it goes.
That's funny, Derek.
Yep. I'm just gonna throw this out for all of you people too that are feeling like Thunderbolts might have been a little spoiled by the trailer. I think there's something going on with Thunderbolts that's going to come out of left field for a lot, especially non-comic book fans. And I think there's something else going on with Thunderbolts that's going to lead to something major in the MCU. And I'm hearing a little things, but I don't want to say anything because I don't want to risk spoiling anything.
I want to say something real quick. The one disappointment that stood out loud for me was the end credit scene or coda, whatever, not leading into the Thunderbolts was a major ball that was dropped. We didn't need the Mr. Brainiac guy threatening us more. I felt that really felt flat. I wish we could, because we had Bucky as a cameo. Why not just kind of slide us right into the next film with a little tease of what we could see something or whatever? Would have been nice.
Well, Kevin, that's going to lead me to what are you looking most forward to? Because I think it ties into something that's happening on the Fandom Podcast Network.
Yeah, well, obviously, I want to mention Daredevil Born Again. We're really looking forward to that. We are going to be covering that weekly when that comes out. We're going to have our own little True Believers spoiler reaction show, so make sure you guys pay attention to that. But Thunderbolts has been on my radar for a while. I can't wait. I love the new trailer. I'm looking forward to that. I'm very, very curious to see how that's going to work, because that looks like a fun movie.
Yeah, I am. Thunderbolts is a project I felt the same way about Thunderbolts that I did when the original Guardians of the Galaxy was announced. I'm like, if they do this right, this is going to be something very special, and that's what I feel about Thunderbolts. Daredevil was my favorite Netflix series by miles, and I like most of the Netflix series, but Charlie Cox's Daredevil is absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait for the premiere on Disney Plus and see what they do with it.
First 2 episodes will be dropping, by the way. Like they usually do with a lot of this. So March 4th is the premiere date. First 2 episodes of Daredevil.
And of course, too, guys, it's been a pleasure to talk everything Captain America with you guys. I think it's general consensus. It's not the best thing we've seen in the MCU, but I think it's solid. But I think everybody agrees here too that Anthony Mackie and the cast was phenomenal. I think this film just needed a little bit more narrowing down its plot line, and I think it would have been something very special. But I do think it is a great addition to the MCU, and I cannot wait for more Anthony Mackie as Captain America. But
me too.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody here on the panel for coming on. I know that it was a crowded room, but you guys all did some great avenging in this True Believers podcast, and I want to thank all of you guys. I'm just going to kind of go around real quick. Lee, where can people find you? Because I know you got some interesting projects going on right now too.
You can find me all over the place. I'm on Facebook. You can follow my production company, Madman Road. You can follow my stunt team, the Fight Monkeys. Those are both, the big projects I'm working on. I've got several features coming up in the next year that I'm working on. For those of the guys that don't know, I do work in the film industry as a fight choreographer, armorer, stunt coordinator, occasional actor, and producer. I've got a dream project that I've been rolling over for almost 6 years now. We just wrapped sound on the movie, so now it's just putting the credits in and getting everyone's name spelled right. But it is absolutely one of the crazy ambitious things I've ever done. I wanted to have a giant assassin brawl set to tango music. I got to thank Mr. Kevin Reisel for donating to the cause on that one a few months back. That went towards, beer and loose women. The rest we just wasted.
Well invested.
Yeah, and then get some more stuff on the run. But you can also find me on the Instagram at The Way of the Way and the Fight Monkeys. I'm not on Twitter, probably for the same reasons that John isn't. I think I'm on Blue Sky, but I never remember what the address is. So.
The Way on Blue Sky, and also too, Lee, we're back doing Blood of Kings. We just released one, and we got another one coming out shortly, and we're going to record another one soon. So check out the Blood of Kings Highlander podcast with Lee and I.
Sure.
Derek, we know we can find you at What a Piece of Junk, and I know you guys have got to be gearing up for Andor season 2.
Well, hopefully we'll be gearing up for Visions. Actually, that would be really good. Season 3 should be hopefully coming out here pretty soon. Again, why wouldn't you want to debut the season 3 Japanese anime feature when you have Star Wars Celebration this April in Japan. I think would be a great way to announce it and release it, but we'll see what they decide to do. But yeah, you can find me, What a Piece of Junk, with my co-hosts Scott and Nathan there. You can find me on Facebook, simply just for that, for the most part, obviously staying connected with friends like here and family, and then just having fun with the social media, of sharing the group of, yes, there you go. Deadpool. But yeah, no, find me on there. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. So, but yeah, gearing up with all the fun stuff that Star Wars has.
Kat, I know you're always hovering around, especially when we talk Marvel stuff, and hopefully we're going to get you on for a few episodes of when we are covering Daredevil, because I know how excited you are about that show.
You better. I'm going to come find Kevin, and there'll be no more Kevin.
Well, Kevin said something about videoing you out of if they ever do Moon Knight season 2. I don't know about that. So
he can try all he likes. He can research all he likes, but he will never know more. I know more about comics than he knows in his little finger.
It's true.
Yeah. But I think he's got you on Raider knowledge, and I'm
on what knowledge?
Raider knowledge.
Move along.
Does that really count as knowledge, though? It's the Raiders.
Yeah. But where can people find you on social media, Kat?
Mainly Facebook, StaticCat1. I'm on Twitter. I think I have a handle there. I never use it. Same with X. Never use it. I don't do anything else. I'm boring.
Miss Lacey, I know you bring your Queen of Movie Food knowledge to the Fandom Podcast Network, whether it's co-hosting with Kevin and I on Culture Clash, joining on a Time Warp, or in a Couch Potato Theater. But where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out?
Okay, so I have bailed on the meta of it all, and I'm not on X or Twitter or whatever. I am just doing, from now on, I'm on Blue Sky, Lacy Pants. I am on Discord, and I am on Letterboxd. Those are my 3.
And of course, too, you can find Kevin and I here on the Fandom Podcast Network, where we covering everything, and we have so much fun doing it, and especially for you amazing listeners out there. But Kevin, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me, of course, Kevin, on Facebook. You can also find me on all of the socials. I keep all my socials active, more active on others, but you can find me at Spartan_Phoenix, and we just, of course, just joined Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix.
And where can the network be found on Blue Sky, Kevin?
FanPod Network is on Blue Sky now.
And you can find me, I'm Kyle. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW. You can find me on Blue Sky at AKyleW. You can also find me on Threads and Instagram at AKyleFandom. We got all kinds of great stuff going on here, but also just a quick reminder to TeePublic. We can have all the gear of the Fandom Podcast Network on our TeePublic store. Kevin is rocking his True Believers shirt now, and I believe they have a big sale coming up here this weekend as well. But go visit tpublic.com, search for the Fandom Podcast Network. You can find all the gear there. You can get hats, shirts, tapestries, cell phone cases, laptop cases, all kinds of great things. I've got a pillow back behind me. And a little kickback comes back here to keep the Tesseract powered, because Tesseract juice ain't cheap. I'm just telling you. But we appreciate all your support through TeePublic and listening. And there's a sample of some of the other gear on TeePublic.
Can we give Fandom Podcast Network the flamethrower? The kids love it.
I'm hearing that, but I've got some copyright issues with that. I'm still working on that for you, Lee. If nothing else, I will try to get you the test model.
Nice.
Guys, we have been talking Captain America: Brave New World, the return of the MCU to theaters. It has been a blast here. I want to thank everybody out who joined me. I want to thank all of you who either watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast. Please make sure you give us a like, a subscribe, and a share. And until next time, when we return for True Believers with some Daredevil.
By the way, Kyle, real quick, I know you've only missed one MCU in the theater because you had COVID, right?
Correct. Well, no, I did see Ant-Man in the theater. I've only missed one on opening day because of COVID.
That's what I want to talk about. Yeah. So yeah, I've not missed an opening day MCU. It's what was this? 35 films now. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I had COVID. I was in quarantine. I had to wait about 5 days after to go see Ant-Man and Quantumania. But you know what? It's still, it's the MCU. I love it.
Still saw it in the theater though.
Yeah, I still saw it in the theater. I've seen everyone in the theater, and I'm proud of that fact. But guys, until next time, I'm just going to tell you, Excelsior and make Ars Marvel.